And welcome to the Get Clear Show. I'm Laura Wing. I'm your host. And today I have the extreme privilege of sitting with the Miss Beautiful Tanisha, who is also a talk show host. And Tanisha is going to be with us today talking about how the Lord has opened up some incredible doors for her to become a talk show host of this amazing show, where she's had the opportunity to interview artists and just a lot of very important people. And I'm so thrilled that she is here. Welcome to the show, Tanisha.
Well, thank you for having me here.
Thank you.
I'm excited to be here.
I am excited that you're here as well. So I understand that you went from being a daycare provider to all of a sudden having this incredible show that you're doing. And I just want to know, I'm sure the audience wants to know, how you went from being a daycare provider to a talk show host, because those two things are not related.
Right. Well, one day I was in prayer and I was consulting God, asking him to show me what my purpose was. All my life, my identity has been being a mom, a daycare provider, and a wife. And so I wanted to know, who is Tanisha? What am I called here to do? I know I touch lives of children, every day that I care for and their families, but I wanted to know what was my purpose. And he said radio. So I was like, okay, God. What do you mean radio? And so
that's an extreme difference.
He was like, well, I want you to speak to the nations. I want you to speak to people all around the world, and radio will do that for you. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't look for local, because I knew local didn't mean all around the world.
Local is not all around the world.
Internet. And so one day I was just looking online, and then I found the network that I'm with, which is Deep End Media Network. And I called the people, told them what I wanted to do, and that it just started from that day. And I just encourage you viewers out there, if God gives you something to do, just do it.
If God gives you a vision, go with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what happened next? You went to this production place and they started helping you produce this radio show, and all of a sudden you started getting guests. And it is amazing to me when I hear people talk about how God supernaturally opens up doors for them, and that's what happened for you. Mm-hmm. What transpired after you started this?
Well, he gave me the job description of what I was supposed to do. And so I would have to book artists, and it would just be any artist. I had to make sure that it was going to be, I guess, someone to speak to the hearts of listeners with their testimony. And so I would call someone, invite them out, and once they would give their interview, that's when I would hear why God wanted them on the show. And so I would get their testimony right then, just like the listeners would. And so then it all made sense. And so what it is to motivate people, inspire people, and encourage them, because you never know who you're speaking with. We never know
that is very
who we're
true.
talking to.
That is so true.
So.
Yeah. Sometimes we see people and we only see what's on the outside, mm-hmm. until we get to speak with them and the inside comes out. And that's what I love about this job so much, is that I get to be blessed and in a position where people's insides come out in a very beautiful and meaningful way.
Yes.
So what are some of the more interesting guests that you've had?
I would say I did a interview with an artist by the name of Five. And he told me his testimony of how he worked with a major label. And they wanted him to take out God in his music. Oh. But he decided, you know what, I believe in God, I stand on his word, and I'm going to keep that in. And when he changed the lyrics and made it have God in there, when it took off, it just touched and impacted so many lives. And so he said from that moment on, he decided, I'm going to make sure God is included, because all of the lyrics came from God. So how can I exclude him?
Wow.
And so it just made me think about how so many times in life we sometimes with the world, they want to say, take God out, and put God in a box. But God isn't in a box. He's everywhere. So it just really touched me to know that we have to have God included in our lives. That's how they've taken God out of schools. They've taken God out of every single context. So I just believe that if you keep God as the center, that everything else will work.
This is what I believe, and this is what I know, and especially from interviewing so many people who have stories of faith, is that when you remove God from the situation, you remove the blessing from the situation. And when you keep God in the situation, the blessings come.
Yes.
And I think that's sort of been a theme of your life,
Mm-hmm.
that when God has been involved in what it is that you're doing, you've seen supernatural blessings come out of that.
Yes. I mean, God has been so awesome because just with the show, it hasn't even been a year. And I've had so many people tell me, wow, I can't believe all the doors that is open for you.
Mm.
But it's not about me because I always make sure that I'm giving God credit. I constantly say, okay, God, how did I do on the show today? Did I do what you asked me to do today? And so I believe that's why the show is being successful, is because I'm allowing God to be the center of it.
And you've been blessed with some talents that it's not as if you went to school and said, did that. You went to school and said, I'm going to be a talk show host, and I'm going to get these special skills. God has just sort of given you those, and people want to hear what you have to say, don't they?
Yes,
Yeah.
they do. And then also when the like we were discussing and saying how most of the people when you interview them, they want to be able to have their story heard.
People want to be heard.
Yes, and I think that is just a gift that God has given us to be able to reach that person that we're speaking to, for them to open up, share their story and their testimony to be able to impact other hearts.
Absolutely. I always ask people, what's your story? So we know that your story is that you are on this incredible path with this amazing show that you have, and you're trying to bring that to some new networks and do some more exciting
Yes.
things with your show. But what is Tanisha's story? You get to interview people all the time, and you get to hear their stories, but it's not very often, I wouldn't
Right.
think, that you get to be on the other side of that and get to be interviewed. So what is Tanisha's story? What is your story?
I would say my story is faith. A lot of people don't understand how faith works. And so I actually have been gifted with the gift of faith, meaning if God says something, just to have the faith like a child, just to just go out and do it. And a lot of people make it so hard.
They
You know,
complicate it.
yes, and it's really not hard. It's just about, if God says it, just believe it and then just go with it. Don't put any extra thought into it. So that's just been my life. Everything I've ever done, everything I've ever um, tried to accomplish, it was because He said it, I did it, and it happened. It's just that easy. But I've always heard a lot of people say, I've prayed, I've consulted God, I can't hear Him. He said He's always there. So if He's always there and He said He'd never leave you nor forsake you, He's there. I think a lot of times we can't hear Him because we're either too busy, have so many things going on, and sometimes you have to get a little quiet just so you can hear Him.
I agree. I agree. We're all human. I know sometimes, and people look at me and they say, "Oh, you have such great faith, and you do all these things." And but even people with great faith go through periods of doubt
Mm-hmm.
and wonder, "Am I doing the right thing?" And I don't feel like God is speaking to me. Have you faced that as well?
Yes, I have. My mom, she had a stroke, and it left her where she couldn't speak, she couldn't move, she couldn't do anything. And so at first I was a little angry at God. I was like, why did you allow
Why
this to
would you
happen
let
to
this
her?
happen? People ask that a lot when bad things happen in life. Why would
Mm-hmm.
God let something bad happen?
Yeah, and it really bothered me because she was at church when this happened to her. She was singing praise and worship. And so I was thinking, oh my gosh, this shouldn't have happened to her. She was praising God, and God reminded me, through everything, we have to give Him glory because there's a reason and a purpose. And her life has really inspired me, even though she's in her condition. She's the one that gave me my faith. She's the one that gave me the foundational tools that I use today with my own children and my own life. And so I know every day for her to wake up in the condition that she's in, that God had to wake her up. Not only did He had to wake her up, she had to want to be here. And so when I look at her life and I see that she's laying there in a position where somebody else has to take care of her, that's God showing me how we're supposed to be. We're supposed to have that much trust and that much faith to believe that He will take care of us, because she literally can't make any decisions for herself.
Isn't it amazing to you? It is amazing to me how out of tragedy we can grow, and we can learn, and we can find the good even in something that seems bad.
Right.
That God uses all of those things for a purpose. There's always a purpose in that. And I don't know what the purpose would be in your mother having a stroke, but it sounds to me like you are growing and learning out of watching
Mm-hmm.
what she's going through. So
Right.
something good is happening out of
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I've learned how my dad, he's had to have a different role
Oh,
of taking care of her, and I've seen his faith. I mean, he has literally, his faith has grown. His trust in God has grown. So when God does things, it's not to hurt us, it's to actually put that pressure on us just a little bit to get us closer to Him, to get us to have,
amazing.
we have to go through something to get our own testimony. So,
So your story then is one of faith. If we say, Tanisha, what's your story? You say, my story is one of faith. Would you be able to share with the audience some things maybe that you've stepped out on faith in and God has provided for?
I would say, I remember in 2008, I was believing God for a particular car, and I woke my kids up. I said, God said today we're getting a car. They're faith kids. So they said, okay, where are we going? I said, we're just going to go, and God will tell us where to go. And so we went way out of town, drove different car lots and everything. I didn't see the car. God said, go back home. I go
Oh,
home. I'm like, God, I thought you said I was going to get my car today. I get home. I look online. There's the car.
there's the car.
I mean, I looked at several cars, so I had a choice. So in life, we have choices. But this was the car because I was
Wow.
specific. I wanted it to be a pearl white car. I wanted it to, be a certain model or whatever. And I called the guy. It was Christmas Eve, and he said his wife had just had a baby. And he said, "Well, you know what? I can actually lower the price of the car. I can, if you meet me today, you can get the car, and we can work everything out." So I meet the guy, and we worked out something. My birthday is the day after Christmas. So mind you,
Oh,
this is
wow.
Christmas Eve. So he said, we're going to do everything today, but we can't do the paperwork today. We'll do it on Friday. Friday was my birthday when we did the paperwork.
Mm,
So it was the best gift God could have
best
ever
birthday.
gave me because on my title it said December 26th. So I
Oh,
felt like it was a special gift from God.
wow.
So had I not stepped out on faith, I would have missed out on my birthday gift.
On your very special birthday gift.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you this because I run into people a lot that they don't believe that there is a God. They don't believe God exists. They don't believe that they don't have the same belief system that you and I share.
Hmm.
And so when you start talking about these things that you've done in faith, for example, looking for a car, they say, I don't believe in God and I've bought a car, so what's the difference?